Hello, movie lovers. Today I want to talk about a 1936 German movie, and this is The Final Chord. And this is part two of the double feature that Kino released in February 2022 of Douglas Sirk's films that he made in Germany before he came to Hollywood. And in the final, the first one was The Girl from the Marshcroft, and that has some of the Sirkian elements that we see from his Hollywood films. But I got to tell you, The Final Chord is pure Douglas Sirk melodrama. I mean, this is the link. The Final Chord is the link to the Universal, especially to the Universal melodramas that Sirk is most famous for today, including Written on the Wind. And it has all the excesses of melodrama. Sirk holds nothing back in this story. And Jonathan Rosenbaum equates The Final Chord with the masterpieces of Sirk's 1950s movies. And it really has a close connection to the literal interpretation of the word or definition of melodrama, which is a musical drama. And Sirk would always emphasize that in his interviews, that these are musical dramas, and because there's lots of music here. It's a sensational sequence at the Berlin Philharmonia. This is 1936. It was an edifice that was destroyed during the bombing in World War II, and it's filled to the brim with people. There's a full orchestra, full choir. We return a couple more times. We're hearing Beethoven's Ninth, the Nutcracker Suite, and Handel at the conclusion. So it definitely emphasizes the musical nature, and in some very effective ways, I thought, melodramatic ways to be sure. And the story begins in New York City, where a man is found dead on a park bench in Central Park, and he is a suicide. The police find his wife. It turns out that he had been an embezzler in Germany. He and his wife had to leave Germany quickly. They left their small son behind, and the wife, having learned of the suicide, destitute, no way to get back to Germany and reunite with her son. So she becomes ill. She's lost the will to live. In Henry James's phrase, she has turned her face to the wall. But then her very sympathetic neighbors play a concert that is actually being a live concert from Germany, which I don't think actually could happen in 1936, of Beethoven's Ninth. And we see it. We see the actual performance in the Berlin Philharmonia. And but now they go to check on her as they're listening to the Beethoven's Ninth, and she has risen up. Her body, she's now got a glow. She hears the Ode to Joy, and now she wants to live again. And that's not so far-fetched. I know the Ode to Joy has lifted up my spirits more than once in my lifetime. But then she does manage to get herself back to Germany. She tries to reunite with her son, but of course there's all kinds of impediments to that. And her little boy is connected with the conductor. The conductor of this Beethoven's Ninth is a maestro of great celebrity, and he gets involved with this little boy. So we see a connection across the ocean between a woman that has given up on life and a conductor who is orchestra giving a performance of a life-affirming musical composition. And this was a big production. I mean, you can tell from being able to mount 3 different concerts in the Berlin Philharmonia. And it's beautiful looking. It was designed by a man called Eric Kittelhofer, and Kittelhofer was closely associated with Fritz Lang. And you can see it including movies like Metropolis. So you can see it in some of his, especially in some of his models. There was only two actors that I had any awareness of. One I just knew the name, and one of the female stars is Lil Dagover, and she was one of the biggest stars of German cinema, silent cinema. She appeared in movies all the way up to the 1970s, and she actually did come to America, and she made a film in 1934 in Hollywood called The Woman from Monte Carlo. That was directed by Michael Curtiz. And in that era, she must have been a big international star in 1934 because she gets top billing over Walter Huston and Warren Williams. The other actor I noticed is there's a great courtroom scene at the end of the. I love courtroom scenes when they're done well, and this one's really done well, with secrets being revealed and at last minute. But the presiding judge, I recognized immediately. He's an actor by the name of Eric Ponto. And for anybody who's ever seen The Third Man, Eric Ponto played Dr. Winkle. And Joseph Cotton always mispronounces it as Dr. Winkle, and he has to correct him, Winkle. And he's really good in this. And in the Anthony Slide commentary, he mentions that he was mostly a stage actor, but and we need this commentary to get a sense of who all these people are, because they're everybody besides those two performers I had absolutely no knowledge of. And because it's 1936 and the Nazis have consolidated their power, and especially over movies, there's, what happens to these people? You can't help thinking when you see them, how did they survive the war? Were they not? Did they become Nazis? And some did. So we get a lot of these actor bios, and then towards the end of his commentary, Anthony Slide's commentary, he says, well, now I guess I'm going to have to talk about Douglas Sirk. And I thought it was kind of amusing because I think he tried to suppress it as much as he could, but I don't think he is a big admirer of Douglas Sirk. And he said he had seen him once in a interview, live interview in a film academy where he felt Sirk had too much self-regard, and and his films, in particular, Slide denigrates all the academics that have discovered Sirk, and written books about Sirk, and he makes at least one factual error, Anthony Slide does, because he says that Andrew Sarris, who was one of the original big-time promoters of Douglas Sirk, had him in his top category, The Far Side of Paradise. Well, I was an Andrew Sarris acolyte back in the 60s and 70s, and Sirk, The Far Side of Paradise wasn't the top. That was the Pantheon. So Sirk was one of those great but not as great kind of directors in Andrew Sarris's eyes. But there's no doubt Sirk's, and Anthony Slide acknowledges that Rainer Werner Fassbinder and John Waters and Quentin Tarantino and Todd Haynes, they all regard Sirk very highly and an influence on their work. And he does, and Slide is fair. I mean, he does see that Sirk, he regards Sirk as a very competent director, maybe a step above competent director. And he quotes from some reviews of The Final Chord, and for instance, Sirk's ability to make everyone a star in his movies. Everybody has their moment in it. And Sirk regarded The Final Chord as his first real movie in which he really understood what motion pictures could do as far as camera movement, as far as visual storytelling in general. And he was unafraid of going over the top. And he even mentioned from a Sirk interview in the 30s that he was highly influenced by American movies, which he said had the nerve to go over the top, to be excessive. That's what Sirk liked to do, even though Anthony Slide might not regard that as high art. But nevertheless, it's a really good, I mean, Anthony Slide knows German movies in the 1930s and all these people. And I'm sure he did some research, but I think he was pretty familiar with all these people even beforehand. So overall, I mean, again, if you're a fan of melodrama, this is really the Final Chord is really a must see, especially a Douglas Sirk fan. Both of them are worth seeing. You get two movies for the price of one here that I think, but certainly I would have never anticipated ever getting a chance to see. Okay, so that's it for Douglas Sirk for a while. Written on the Wind came out a couple weeks ago. And I'll soon be getting to the final Chabrol movie in Lies and Deceits box set, which is right over there. And then I'm going to be doing, I think, 6 movies of part of my 1972, 50 years ago series. This is going to be, these 4 movies plus 2 more are going to be included in that series. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.